Part I, The Haunting of Eldridge Hollow. Chapter 1, The Arrival. Eldridge Hollow was a small, forgotten town tucked away in a remote corner of the countryside. With its ancient oak trees, crumbling stone walls, and mist-covered fields, it was a place that seemed frozen in time. The townsfolk lived simple lives, their days marked by routine and the whisper of old legends that spoke of dark forces. Emily never believed in such tales. As a young journalist eager to make her mark, she saw Eldridge Hollow as a stepping stone in her career, a chance to escape the bustle of city life and find a story that would captivate readers. She arrived on a cold, overcast afternoon, the sky heavy with the promise of rain. The air was crisp, and an eerie silence enveloped the town. History of Eldridge Hollow. She had heard rumors of strange occurrences and ghostly sightings, but she dismissed them as superstitious nonsense. That was until she met Mrs. Thompson, the town historian. Mrs. Thompson was a frail woman with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets of their own. She welcomed Emily into her cluttered, dimly lit home, the walls lined. Her assignment was straightforward: document the local customs and explore the history of Eldridge Hollow. She had heard rumors of strange occurrences and ghostly sightings, but she dismissed them as superstitious nonsense. That was until she met Mrs. Thompson, the town historian. Mrs. Thompson was a frail woman with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets of their own. She welcomed Emily into her cluttered, dimly lit home, the walls lined with old books and photographs. As they sat down for tea, Mrs. Thompson began to recount the tale of the Hollow's most infamous legend, the story of Annabelle Hartley. Annabelle was a young woman who lived here over a century ago. Mrs. Thompson began, her voice low and tremulous. She was beautiful and kind, but she harbored a dark secret. She was accused of witchcraft and sentenced to death. Before she died, she cursed the town, vowing that her spirit would return to claim vengeance on those who wronged her. Emily listened intently, her skepticism waning. "And you believe this curse is real?" she asked, trying to mask her curiosity. Mrs. Thompson's eyes gleamed with a mixture of fear and conviction. "I do. Over the years, many have reported strange occurrences, voices in the night, objects moving on their own, and even possession." The word sent a shiver down Emily's spine. "Possession?" Mrs. Thompson nodded gravely. "There have been cases where people claimed to be overtaken by an unseen force, their bodies no longer their own. They spoke in tongues, exhibited unnatural strength, and had no memory of their actions. Double quotes. As the sun set and shadows lengthened, Emily felt a growing unease. She thanked Mrs. Thompson and made her way back to the inn, her mind racing with thoughts of curses and possession. She decided to investigate further, determined to uncover the truth behind the legend of Annabelle Hartley. Chapter 2, The First Encounter. That night, Emily found it hard to sleep. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and filling the room with an unsettling chill. She tossed and turned, her mind replaying Mrs. Thompson's words. Eventually, exhaustion overcame her, and she drifted into a restless slumber. She awoke with a start in the early hours of the morning. The room was pitch black, and the silence was deafening. As she tried to shake off the remnants of a disturbing dream, she felt a presence in the room, a cold, oppressive weight that seemed to press down on her chest. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice trembling. There was no answer, but the air grew colder, and a faint, ghostly whisper filled her ears. It was a woman's voice, soft and mournful, repeating the same words over and over. "Help me!" Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she fumbled for the bedside lamp. When the light flickered on, the room appeared empty, but the sense of unease lingered. She knew she couldn't ignore what she had experienced. She needed answers. The next morning, Emily decided to visit the local church. Father Matthews was a kind, elderly priest who had served the town for decades. She hoped he could shed some light on the strange events and the legend of Annabelle Hartley. Father Matthews welcomed her warmly and listened patiently as she recounted her encounter. When she finished, he sighed deeply and crossed himself. "The spirit of Annabelle Hartley is not a myth, my child. Many here have felt her presence, and some have been touched by her malevolence." He led Emily to a small, dusty room at the back of the church, where old records and artifacts were stored. Among them was a faded portrait of Annabelle, a beautiful young woman with piercing eyes and an enigmatic smile. There were also records of the trial and execution, detailing the accusations of witchcraft and the curse she had placed on the town. "Annabelle's spirit seeks vengeance," Father Matthews explained, "but there is a way to put her to rest. According to legend, her spirit is bound to a locket that was buried with her. If the locket is found and destroyed, her curse will be lifted." Emily felt a surge of determination. "Where is she buried?" Father Matthews hesitated. "Her grave is in the old cemetery, just beyond the towns. But be warned, it is a place of great darkness. Many who have gone there have not returned." Despite the warning, Emily knew she had to go. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows crept across the land, she made her way to the cemetery. The air was thick with fog, and the ancient headstones loomed like silent sentinels. She found Annabelle's grave easily enough. It was marked by a weathered stone, inscribed with words of condemnation. As she knelt to dig, the air grew colder, and the wind howled around her. After what felt like hours, her fingers brushed against something hard and metallic. She pulled out a small, ornate locket, its surface etched with strange symbols. Before she could react, a chilling laughter echoed through the cemetery, and a dark, shadowy figure appeared before her. It was Annabelle, her eyes burning with fury and sorrow. "You dare to disturb my resting place?" she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper. "You will pay for your insolence." Emily felt a force grip her body, freezing her in place. Her vision blurred, and the world around her seemed to spin. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Annabelle's vengeful gaze. Chapter 3: Possession. Emily awoke in her room at the inn, disoriented and weak. The locket lay on the bedside table, its presence a stark reminder of the previous night's events. She felt different, disconnected from herself, as if a shadow had settled over her soul. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen. Objects moved on their own, and she heard whispers that no one else could hear. She often found herself in places with no memory of how she got there. The townsfolk started to avoid her, sensing something amiss. It wasn't long before Emily realized the horrifying truth Annabelle's spirit had taken of her. She could feel the ghost's malevolent presence, a dark force that sought to control her body and mind. Desperate to free herself, she returned to Father Matthews. "The locket must be destroyed," he said gravely. "But it will not be easy. Annabelle's spirit is strong, and she will fight to maintain her hold on you." With Father Matthews' guidance, Emily prepared for a final confrontation. They gathered the necessary tools: holy water, a blessed dagger, and a sacred chant. The plan was simple. They would go to the cemetery, and Emily would destroy the locket while Father Matthews performed the exorcism. As night fell, they made their way to Annabelle's grave. The air was thick with tension, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the tombstones. Emily clutched the locket in one hand and the dagger in the other, her heart pounding with fear and determination. Father Matthews began to chant, his voice strong and steady. The air grew colder, and a dark, swirling mist enveloped them. Annabelle's spirit materialized, her eyes burning with rage. "You cannot defeat me," she snarled. This body is mine. Emily fought to resist the spirit's influence, her willpower clashing with Annabelle's malevolence. With a final surge of strength, she raised the dagger and brought it down on the locket. The metal shattered, and a blinding light erupted from within. Annabelle screamed, a sound of pure agony and despair. The mist dissipated, and the oppressive presence lifted. Emily collapsed to the ground, exhausted but free. Father Matthews helped her to her feet, a look of relief on his face. It is done. Annabelle's spirit is at rest, and her curse is lifted. Emily nodded, feeling a weight lifted from her soul. She knew she had survived a harrowing ordeal, but she also knew she had uncovered a story worth telling, a story of darkness, courage, and the power of the human spirit. As she left Eldridge Hollow, she felt a sense of closure. The town's secrets had been revealed, and its ghostly past had been put to rest. But the memory of Annabelle Hartley would stay with her forever, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead.